kind of funny. You'd think AI companies would be all over selling software to the military.
Yeah.
But it turns out
Right.
they're actually kind of hesitant about having their tech used to, well,
To kill people.
yeah, for legal purposes.
Yeah.
That's kind of where this deep dive gets really fascinating.
Definitely, it's like this tension point.
Yeah,
The cutting edge of AI butting up against the ethics of war.
Exactly. To really get this, I think we need to kind of step back and understand what the military calls the kill chain. Mm-hmm. And that's basically...
It's the process
Yeah.
of going from identifying a threat,
Right.
tracking it, and
Yeah.
then, eliminating it.
Right. Taking it out.
Yeah.
And what's been really interesting to me is how companies like
Eliminate.
OpenAI, Anthropic, even Meta
Right.
have changed their policies.
Yeah. There.
And they're now open to letting U.S. defense and intelligence agencies use their AI.
Yeah.
It's almost like a gold rush now.
It is. Everyone's trying to get in on it, right?
Yeah, we're seeing Meta partnering up with Lockheed Martin, Anthropic with Palantir, OpenAI with Endural.
It's a whole new world. It's a whole new landscape.
It really is.
And what's key here, I think, is that the way the Pentagon seems to be approaching this is focusing on the planning,
Right.
kind of the strategic planning phases of that kill chain.
So using AI to help in those early stages.
Exactly. Think about it. Generative AI can help commanders
Huh?
play out different scenarios, game it out. What are the possible responses we could have?
Right.
And then what are the consequences? Really analyze what could happen
Wow.
in these really high-stakes situations. Quick ask. Almost 95% of you watch our videos but still aren't subscribed. Please click subscribe. It really helps us grow. And if you're not loving our content, you can always change your mind. Thanks, and back to it.
So instead of making that pull the trigger decision,
Yeah.
AI is helping with the what if part of military planning.
That's exactly it. Yeah, it's all about giving them a deeper understanding of
Okay.
the situation, what could happen.
But wait, doesn't that kind of clash with what some of these developers said they would do, like their policies?
Yeah.
I mean, Anthropic, for example, specifically said they don't want their AI used to harm people.
Right.
So how do they reconcile that with working with the military?
Well, I mean, that is the big ethical debate, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where's the line? Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei,
Okay.
he actually thinks there's a middle ground.
Really?
Yeah, he thinks there's a way to use AI responsibly in defense and intelligence
Okay.
without, crossing that line into creating, killer robots.
Right. Which brings us to that big, scary question everyone's asking.
Yeah.
Will AI be making life and death decisions on the battlefield? I mean, the CEO of Endural, Palmer Luckey, he argues that, look, the U.S. military has been using autonomous weapon systems for a long time. So what's the big deal?
So to really understand the Pentagon's position, I think we need to step back and look at the bigger picture.
Okay.
They say that, look, we don't have any fully autonomous weapons, and they really emphasize that human oversight
Right.
will always be part of the decision to use force.
So it's more about humans and machines working together rather than machines going off and doing their own thing.
Yeah, that's definitely their stance.
Got it.
They're saying these AI systems are there to help humans make better decisions,
Okay.
not to replace humans completely.
Hey, want our free AI dope top AI tools that we use? Chat below. It's our live Google Sheets packed with over 100 killer tools, video, music, photos, AI voices, productivity, script writing, YouTube hacks, captions, the works. Always growing. Live Google Sheet. Always free. AI dope top AI tools that we use. Download and chat below. Back to the show.
But how do we even define autonomy in this context?
Yeah.
Where's the line between a machine helping a human and a machine calling the shots?
Yeah, that's the question, right?
It's interesting, though. There was this huge outcry when Amazon and Google signed those contracts with Israel.
Right.
But this whole wave of AI companies working with the military, it's been pretty quiet in Silicon Valley.
That is interesting, you're right.
Why do you think that is?
I'm not sure. One interesting perspective on this comes from an AI researcher named Evan Hubinger.
Okay.
And he thinks the best way to make sure AI is used responsibly in defense is to actually work with the military. He says trying to block the government from using AI
Right.
just isn't realistic.
So instead of protesting from the outside, he's saying get involved, influence how it's developed.
Exactly. Have a seat at the table and make sure those ethical considerations are part of the conversation from the beginning.
Okay, so we've got this whole tangled web, all these different threads and perspectives.
It's complicated.
How do we even start to make sense of this whole AI and the military thing?
It can feel really overwhelming, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I think the first step is to just stay informed.
Okay.
Understand the different viewpoints, the potential benefits and risks, and the ethical implications,
Right.
Get involved in the conversation, ask questions, and demand transparency from both the developers and the government.
You're right. Demanding transparency is key.
Yeah.
This isn't just some abstract debate.
No, it's not.
This technology could have a huge impact on all our lives.
Absolutely. And it's not just about understanding the technology itself, right? It's about understanding who's controlling it and what they plan to do with it.
And this is just the start, right? As AI keeps getting better and better, these questions are just going to get tougher and more important.
Definitely. This is a really critical point in history.
It really is.
We have a chance to shape the future of AI here to make sure it's used for good.
Right.
But that means we have to stay engaged, we have to stay informed, and we have to be willing to ask those hard questions.
So besides staying informed, what can people actually do to make sure AI is developed and used responsibly, especially when it comes to the military?
That's a great question, and that's what we're going to dig into right after this break.
Sounds good.
We were talking about how people feel kind of helpless with all this new AI stuff.
Right, like what can we even do?
Well, you can definitely do things.
Okay.
Like, first off, educate yourself.
Okay.
Learn about it. The more you understand about AI, what it can do, what it can't do,
Right.
the better you'll be able to, actually participate in this conversation.
So like read those articles, check out those reports,
Yeah.
listen to podcasts like ours, right?
Exactly. And then once you have that knowledge, use it. Don't be afraid to contact your representatives.
Right.
Let them know what you think.
Let's speak up.
Yeah, demand transparency from the government and the companies making this stuff.
So write letters, make those calls, even just post on social media.
Yeah, anything. Just make sure your voice is heard.
Get involved.
Exactly. Engage in those discussions. Join those online forums. Find organizations that are fighting for responsible AI.
So when more people speak up, it's harder to ignore.
Exactly. You create a collective voice that's powerful.
That makes sense. What else?
You can also support those organizations that are doing good work in this area,
Okay.
like the Future of Life Institute,
Okay.
the Center for Security and Emerging Technology,
Yeah.
the Partnership on AI.
Right. So donate, volunteer, help spread the word.
Exactly, because that support goes directly to their research, their advocacy, their education efforts.
Okay. So now I'm starting to feel, less overwhelmed by it all.
Yeah, and don't forget, you have power as a consumer too.
Oh, right. Right.
As AI gets more and more into our lives, be mindful of the companies that are making it and how they're using it.
Right.
Support the companies that are thinking about ethics and privacy.
Oh, okay.
And hold those that don't accountable.
So voting with our wallets can actually make a difference.
Absolutely. Conscious consumerism can actually push companies to do the right thing.
I like that. What about the bigger picture, though? What should governments be doing about all of this, especially with the military?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there are a lot of different opinions out there.
I bet.
Some people think we need strict international regulations.
Okay.
To prevent autonomous weapon systems, those killer robots everyone's talking about.
Yeah. That's definitely a scary thought.
It's a serious issue.
Yeah.
The idea that machines should never be able to decide who lives or dies.
Right.
Other people argue that, trying to ban these things outright isn't realistic.
Okay.
They say we should focus on creating clear ethical guidelines and making sure humans always have control over these systems.
So finding that balance between, using AI's power, but making sure it doesn't get misused.
Exactly. And that's where international cooperation is super important.
Right, because this isn't just one country's problem.
No single country can solve this alone. We need global dialogue. We need agreements to make sure AI is developed responsibly.
That sounds hard to do in today's world.
It is, but the stakes are huge. We're talking about the future of warfare here.
Yeah.
And maybe even humanity itself.
It's a lot.
It is, but we need those international treaties, those ethical frameworks, that constant dialogue between nations.
Okay, but technology moves so fast. Can we really keep up with it?
It's a challenge for sure. We need to create regulations that can keep pace with AI as it evolves.
And be ready for new challenges.
Absolutely. It's not just about setting the rules.
Right.
It's about creating a system that can adapt and learn as AI changes.
That makes sense.
And that system needs to involve experts from all kinds of fields.
Like who?
Ethicists, scientists, policymakers, military leaders, and the public, too.
Wow.
We need everyone's perspective to make sure we're thinking about all the potential consequences.
I get all that, but I still feel kind of overwhelmed. Like, can individuals really make a difference when we're talking about something as powerful as AI, especially when it's being used by the military?
I understand that feeling, but remember, every movement for change starts with individuals who see a problem and decide to do something about it.
Right.
We can't just sit back and watch this happen.
You're saying that even small actions can add up and make a big difference.
Exactly. History is full of examples where individuals sparked movements that changed the world.
Okay, that gives me some hope.
This is no different. If we educate ourselves, speak up, and demand accountability, we can help shape a future where AI is used for good.
So where do we go from here? We've talked about individuals, governments, international cooperation. What's next?
That is the big question, right? We've laid out the challenges, but what about the solutions? What's already happening, and what can we do to push things forward? We'll dive into some of those promising developments in just a bit.
So you were talking about some promising developments, things that are happening right now that give you hope for the future of responsible AI, especially in the military.
Yeah, there actually is a lot going on. There's a global movement that's growing, and it's really focused on creating these ethical guidelines and safeguards, especially for the military use of AI.
Okay, that's good to hear. Like, what are some specific examples?
Well, one that's gaining a lot of traction is the Campaign to Stop Killer Robots.
Okay, I've heard of that.
It's this coalition of NGOs, and they're working to ban fully autonomous weapons, before they actually become a reality.
Like before we actually have them.
Exactly. They're pushing for these international treaties to make sure that humans are always in control of any weapon system.
So trying to prevent a future where machines are deciding who lives and who dies on the battlefield?
Yeah, exactly. And then you have groups like the Future of Life Institute.
Yeah.
They're focused on the bigger picture, like what are the existential risks from really advanced AI?
Right.
And they were really key in developing the Asilomar AI principles.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of those. Those are like a set of guidelines, right?
Yeah. For beneficial AI, like how do we make sure AI is used to help humanity?
Right. Benefit everyone.
Exactly. And then there's the Partnership on AI, and they bring together all these different groups.
Okay.
Tech companies, researchers, academics, civil society groups.
So not just the tech people making all the decisions.
Exactly. It's about bringing in a lot of different viewpoints and perspectives.
I like that.
Yeah, so they're working on ethical guidelines and best practices to make sure that all of that is baked in.
From the very beginning.
From the start, yeah. And even within the U.S. government.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Defense Innovation Unit.
Okay.
They're exploring ways to responsibly use AI in defense.
Huh. So even the military is trying to figure out how to do this the right way.
Yeah. They're working with tech companies and researchers to make sure those AI systems are reliable, transparent, and aligned with human values.
Aligned with human values. I like that.
Yeah, and they're also trying to educate military personnel about the ethics of using AI in war.
Wow. So it sounds like there's a lot of good stuff happening, but can these initiatives really keep up? I mean, AI is developing so fast.
That's a valid concern. It's one of the biggest challenges we face, right?
Yeah.
And that's why we need these frameworks that can change and adapt as the technology does.
So it's not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing process.
It has to be, yeah. And we need everyone talking to each other.
Okay.
Governments, researchers, the private sector, all working together.
Makes sense.
To make sure those guidelines actually stay relevant.
Because that's where we come in, right? The public.
Absolutely. More people who understand these issues and demand that AI is developed responsibly, the more pressure there will be on governments and companies to do the right thing.
So it all goes back to what we've been talking about, staying informed, speaking up, supporting the organizations, fighting for ethical AI.
It really does. It's about recognizing that we all have a role to play in this.
Yeah.
To make sure AI is used ethically, especially when we're talking about using it in war.
Right. And these aren't just hypothetical situations anymore. These are real choices we're making right now.
Exactly. And those choices will have a real impact. And if you want another AI dope deep dive, check this next video and ask yourself, how lucky are we to live in these AI dope times?